Hare Krishna. My obeisances, Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna.
I'm going to move myself to a quiet place. If someone could remind me the starting verse while we commence with some kirtan.
I think we're 4:12:19.
4:12:19. Thank you. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Gurudasa Jayādvaita Swami Niti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Garadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Wait. Think about the tune. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Rama, Hare Rama. Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Shtotra Shata Shishman Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jayam Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Ashtotra Shata Shishman Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Karo Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Shyamakund Radhakund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai. Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai. Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai. Bhakti Devi Ki Jai. Tulsi Maharani Ki Jai. Samaveda Gaur Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. All glories to assembled devotees. Nitai Gaur Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna.
So today is Monday, March 17th. We're joining, coming together for Srimad Bhagavatam class with His Holiness Jayādvaita Maharaj and friends, commencing with verse 4, 12, 19. And I beg everyone's apologies for the chaotic kirtan, but such is grahastha life. You get to engage your family in kirtan, and sometimes it's a little chaotic, but it's for all of our benefit. So thank you for allowing us to lead a little kirtan. And now we will, in a more somber mood, commence with Srimad Bhagavatam. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 4:12:19. That's correct? Okay. Sadadarsha Vimanagryam Nabhaso Vataradhruva Vibhrajaya Dashadisho Rakapatimivodhitam. As soon as the symptoms of his liberation were manifest, he saw a very beautiful airplane coming down from the sky, as if the brilliant full moon were coming down, illuminating all the 10 directions. There are different levels of acquired knowledge: direct knowledge, knowledge received from authorities, transcendental knowledge, knowledge beyond the senses, and finally spiritual knowledge. When one surpasses the stage of acquiring knowledge by the descending process, he is immediately situated on the transcendental platform. Dhruva Maharaj, being liberated from the material concept of life, was situated in transcendental knowledge and could perceive the presence of a transcendental airplane which was as brilliant as the full moonlight. This is not possible in the stages of direct or indirect perception of knowledge. Such knowledge is a special favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One can, however, rise to this platform of knowledge by the gradual process of advancing in devotional service or Krishna consciousness. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Guru Dasa Jayādvaita Swami Niti Namine. I very briefly just want to comment that the process of acquiring knowledge is maybe in some ways in the beginning stages of devotional service mechanical, and yet still it attracts Krishna. I was hearing from His Holiness Bhakti Abhay Ashram Maharaj. He was saying that we all appreciate service and we're all inclined towards loving reciprocation. And he said, where does that come from? It comes from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And when someone is making a lot of progress, beginning, he quoted from the 2nd chapter of the 1st canto, beginning with Shrinvatam Svakata Krishna. Beginning when you start to hear, when you start to speak about Krishna, these are our means, knowledge acquiring senses. When you begin on this path, then Krishna is drawn to you, and that loving reciprocation develops to such a point that Krishna reveals himself. Param not Param Darshvani Vartate, but anyway, Divyam Dadami Te Chakshu. I give you transcendental vision. I give you transcendental senses, because although in the beginning it may feel mechanical, this process of devotional service, or in the case of Dhruva Maharaj, I know we had a nod from Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. He said Dhruva Maharaj is giving a nod to the yogis, to the gyanis. Okay, I'll takes some time in this yogic process, but really it's instant, it's automatic. In bhakti yoga, the Lord is attracted instantly. And so when one advances further in that stage, then full realization is there, full knowledge, by the mercy of the spiritual master, by the mercy of the devotees. Then one can see, in this case, Dhruva, when the full symptoms of his liberation were manifest, Dadarsha, he saw the beautiful airplane coming down from the sky. And so once we get past these mechanical stages, then the light switch goes on, and full reciprocation of the Lord is there. And this is nicely described in the purport. Being liberated from the material concept of life, Dhruva was situated in transcendental knowledge and could perceive the presence of a transcendental airplane, which was as brilliant as the full moonlight. And so Srila Prabhupada says this is not possible in the stages of direct or indirect perception of knowledge. Such knowledge is a special favor of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, Guru Maharaj, anything on this?
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gaudavani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashtajade Satanane. There's a line I found puzzling. When one surpasses the stage of acquiring knowledge by the descending process, he's immediately situated on the transcendental platform. I really don't have a good understanding of what's meant there, because generally our understanding is that one is situated on the transcendental platform by acquiring knowledge through the descending process. So I'm not sure what Prabhupada means here. Does it mean, is that clause supposed to be in a different place, like when by the descending process one surpasses the stage of acquiring knowledge, he's on the transcendental platform? I just don't know what's meant there. But the conclusion is clear, that there's a transcendental process by which the Supreme Personality of Godhead becomes pleased and automatically bestows transcendental knowledge, transcendental perception or understanding. But the conclusion is clear.
Would a comma after knowledge fix the meaning? It's by the descending process?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking. Put a comma there or move the clause around so that it's by the descending process that one surpasses. That would make it conform to what we usually understand. It's just a little mysterious, and we don't really have a way to resolve the mystery. But we're not going to be stranded. The conclusion is there. By the end of the purport, everything is settled up.
Thank you, Maharaj. It's funny, when you mentioned the descending, then I look at the Sanskrit, I see avatara, descending. So the knowledge is descending, the airplane is descending, everything is, all the mercy is descending to one who is so engaged, airplanes, knowledge, and all. I'm thinking, I see Vijay Krishna Prabhu in our Sangha. Are you available to read today? Would you like to continue with text 20?
Yes, Rajesh Prabhu, can you hear me?
Very well, Prabhu.
Yes, text 20?
4:12:20. Yes, Prabhu.
Yes, thank you very much, you're most kind. Dandavat pranams, Prabhu. Tatranu deva prabarau chaturbujau shamau kishora varunambu jekshanau stitava vashtabhyagadam suvasasau kirita harangada charu Kundalam. Translation. Dhruva Maharaj saw two very beautiful associates of Lord Vishnu in the plain. They had 4 hands and a blackish bodily luster. They were very youthful, and their eyes were just like reddish lotus flowers. They held clubs in their hands, and they were dressed in very attractive garments with helmets, and were decorated with necklaces, bracelets, and earrings. Purport. The inhabitants of Vishnu Loka are of the same bodily feature as Lord Vishnu, and they also hold club, conch shell, lotus flower, and disc. In this verse, it is distinctly stated that they had 4 hands and were nicely dressed. The description of their bodily decorations corresponds exactly to that of Vishnu. So, the 2 uncommon personalities who descended from the airplane came directly from Vishnu Loka, or the planet where Lord Vishnu lives.
Any thoughts, Vijay Krishna Prabhu? Anything you'd like to say?
No, maybe Maharaj would like to offer any contribution, and if Maharaj would like to offer any contribution, I'm all ears.
Okay, one is they had Sarupya Mukti, forms closely resembling the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and Kishoro, they were youthful. The spiritual world is not the place of old age and decrepitude. The associates of the Lord who came were youthful. Hare Krishna.
Nothing in the chat. Perhaps we'll continue on. Saraswati Devi, please go ahead.
Pranams Parampujya Maharaj and all the Vaishnava. We know that Lord Narayan has 2 distinctive features, namely the Kastuba Mani and the Srivatsa, the curl of hair on his chest. But I was thinking here they talk about how the Svarupa Mukti that these Vishnu Dutas have, and they talk about the disc, but this can't be the same disc as the Sudarshan Chakra that Lord Narayan has. There has to be a difference in the disc. That's my first question. Hare Krishna.
Well, I haven't seen that distinction made anywhere. Certainly the Lord has his own disc, but it seems that his associates also have disc.
Disc isn't mentioned in this particular verse. Is it somewhere else mentioned? I don't know that I've seen that it's mentioned the Vishnu Duta is carrying a disc.
It's in the purport.
I see. I'm sorry.
The Lord has a club, Komodaki. So that's the Lord's own particular club, but they also had clubs. So the distinction is that one is his and then the others are theirs. And the one he holds may have some particular distinguishing characteristics, but they, just like the king, he has his own distinctive features, but his royal attendants are also royally attired. Anyway, I haven't seen comments about distinctions between his disc and their disc, but they do have discs.
Thank you very much. You brought, when you named his club, you brought to mind Panchajanyam, Hrishikesho, Devadatam, Dhananjaya. They all have conch shells but not of the same quality. That each one has their particular conch. Saraswati Devi, would you like to? Oh, we have something from Praveen Krishna Prabhu.
I have a second question too.
Please.
And that question is here we're told how the Vishnu Dutas have come directly from Vishnu Loka to try and take Dhruva Maharaj back. And we also know how they also came to Ajmer. But what about those devotees of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Krishna who are going back to Goloka, Vrindavan? We don't hear that there's a plane that descends to collect them back to Goloka or Krishna Loka. Hare Krishna.
We hear that there was for Gop Kumar, but we really don't care too much about the transportation. As long as we reach the goal, we're happy. We wouldn't fuss too much over. Wait a second, you're supposed to send a plane. Any way that we can be transported will be acceptable.
Thank you, Maj. From Praveen Krishna Prabhu. Recently, the day of Tukaram Bij, when the Saint Tukaram ascended to Vaikuntha in his self-same body, the airplane was visible to all the villagers present, and his followers gathered to that place in hundreds of thousands, celebrating his ascending to Vaikuntha every year. So that some special extended mercy, not only visible Dadarsha to Dhruva, but Dadarsha for all the villagers saw the airplane. Special mercy of Tukaram. All right, who else do we have? Murari Gupta Prabhu, are you available to read? I know Ross may be available in a moment, but not right now. We also have Satyapriya Mata, Shraddha Mata. If any of you are available to read, please let me know. Otherwise, yes, Murari Gupta Prabhu, are you able to read our text 21?
No one will be able to hear me. My voice is very short.
Yeah, if you're concerned about the audio, we can relieve you. You're not obligated.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, Hare Krishna. Madhupati Prabhu just joined, but I think we'll let you get acclimated to our setting. Guru Maharaj, would you like to read text 21?
Okay. Vigyayatavuttama Magaya Kinkarav Abhyutita Sadvasa Vismita Krama Nanama Namani Grinan Madhudvisha Varshat Pratana Viti Samhatanjalihi. Dhruva Maharaj, seeing that these uncommon personalities were direct servants of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, immediately stood up. But being puzzled, in hastiness he forgot how to receive them in the proper way. Therefore he simply offered obeisances with folded hands and chanted and glorified the holy names of the Lord. Purport. Chanting of the holy names of the Lord is perfect in every way. When Dhruva Maharaj saw the Vishnu Dutas, the direct associates of Lord Vishnu, four-handed and nicely decorated, he could understand who they were, but for the time being, he was puzzled. But simply by chanting the holy name of the Lord, the Hare Krishna mantra, he could satisfy the uncommon guests who had all of a sudden arrived before him. The chanting of the holy name of the Lord is perfect, even though one does not know how to please Lord Vishnu or his associates. Simply by sincerely chanting the holy name of the Lord, everything becomes perfect. A devotee, therefore, either in danger or in happiness, constantly chants the Hare Krishna mantra. When he's in danger, he's immediately relieved. And when he's in a position to see Lord Vishnu or his associates directly, by chanting this Maha Mantra, he can please the Lord. This is the absolute nature of the Maha Mantra. Either in danger or in happiness, it can be chanted without limitation. So here, he understood that they were Uttamagaya Kinkara, Kinkaro, two servants of Uttamagaya, the personality of Godhead, celebrated personality of Godhead. But Sadvasa Vismrita Krama, so Abhyutita, he stood up, but Sadvasa Vismrita Krama, he forgot what to do. Krama means step by step, what's the procedure? What am I supposed to do? So he was puzzled or confused. Now, as one might be when such an airplane descends with two Vaikuntha denizens. So Nanama Namani Grinan Madhudvisha. He simply folded his hands and glorified the holy names of the Lord, chanted the holy names of the Lord. So chanting of the holy name of the Lord is always appropriate, whether there's distress or there's jubilation or whatever the circumstances. I remember having heard in the early days, it was a big deal to remember the Tilak mantras, Keshavaya Namah, Narayana Namah. So Prabhupada said that if you can't remember, you can just chant Hare Krishna. So this facility is there. Of course, it doesn't mean we should be lazy and not learn the various procedures or mantras. But this is always there, that if we forget or we're, for one reason or another, we can simply chant Hare Krishna. Chanting Hare Krishna serves all purposes. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. We have a question from Murari Gupta Prabhu in the chat regarding the Lord's club. If you can expound upon the particular nature of that weapon and why it's chosen among so many possible options.
It's glorified somewhere in Bhagavatam, being full of the blood of the demons and things like that. But I don't recall. I'm sure there must be some history of how he got this particular club, but I don't know it. Perhaps in the Puranic Encyclopedia or in Puranic Encyclopedia or something like that, we might find it.
My personal favorite club moment is when Parikshit Maharaj is protected within the womb, and Srila Prabhupada describes it like a shooting star, but loitered about. He loitered about protecting Parikshit Maharaj in the womb, and Srila Prabhupada's own particular language made it very endearing to me. But it's described, like a shooting star whirling the club around. It has a very nice balance for maneuvering. But anyway, yes, we don't have any details.
Well, we do. Puranic Encyclopedia says it's mentioned in the Mahabharata Adi Parva, chapter 224, stanza 23, that this club was given to Sri Krishna by Varuna, the god of the waters, at the time of the burning of the Khandava forest. You're muted. Radhesha, you're muted.
Oh, thank you. Murai Gupta Prabhu just added, thank you, Maharaj. The mace has long been a symbol of royalty. I'm trying to picture, and if I'm not mistaken, I think it was Kuvera who gave Hanuman his club. I'm trying to think, maybe there was one particular demigod who's known for giving out clubs, but in this case, we're hearing Varuna gave it to Krishna, so perhaps it's different each time. Madhupati Prabhu? Oh, Saraswati Devi says, did Varuna give Gandiva to Arjuna?
I just don't recall.
Maybe somebody can do the research required for who gifted Gandiva. And Praveen Krishna Prabhu supplies Te Deva Siddha Parigita Pavitra Gata Ye Sadhava Samadrasho Bhagavat Prapanna Tanopasidati Harer Gadayabhiguptan Naisham Vayam Nachavaya Prabhavam Adande. My dear servants, please do not approach such devotees, for they have fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are equal to everyone, and their narrations are sung by the demigods and the inhabitants of Siddhaloka. Please do not even go near them. They are always protected by the club of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and therefore Lord Brahma and I, and even the time factor, are not competent to chastise them. Thank you.
Varchanaya Sadhunam, Vinashaya Chaduskritam. That we hear from Prabhupada always. That Krishna uses the 4 weapons to bless the devotees and destroy the demons. Destroying the demons is also protecting the devotees. And our Puranic encyclopedia says that yes, the bow Gandiva was given to Arjuna by Varuna at the request of Agni. And that's with these weapons, they were prepared to help Agni. Kind of a forest project.
Madhupati Prabhu, can we call upon you for our next verse?
Okay. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Gurudas Jayādvaita Swami Tinam. Tam Krishna Pada Abhinivishta Chetasam Baddhanjalim Prashraya Namrakandaram Sunandananda Upasritya Sasmitam Pratyu Chatuhu Pushkaranabha Samato. Translation. Dhruva Maharaj was always absorbed in thinking of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. His heart was full with Krishna. When the 2 confidential servants of the Supreme Lord, who were named Nanda and Sunanda, approached him, smiling happily, Dhruva stood with folded hands, bowing humbly. They then addressed him as follows. Purport. In this verse, the word Pushkaranabha Samatav is significant. Krishna or Lord Vishnu is known for his lotus eyes, lotus navel, lotus feet, and lotus palms. Here he is called Pushkaranabha, which means the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who has a lotus navel. And Samatav means 2 confidential or very obedient servants. The materialistic way of life differs from the spiritual way of life in that one is disobedience and the other is obedient to the will of the Supreme Lord. All living entities are part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and they are supposed to be always agreeable to the order of the Supreme Person. That is perfect oneness. In the Vaikuntha world, all the living entities are in oneness with the Supreme Godhead because they never defy his orders. Here in the material world, however, they are not samatha, agreeable, but always asamatha, disagreeable. This human form of life is a chance to be trained to be agreeable to the orders of the Supreme Lord. To bring about this training in society is a mission of the Krishna consciousness movement. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, the laws of material nature are very strict. No one can overcome the stringent laws of material nature. But one who becomes a surrendered soul and agrees to the order of the Supreme Lord can easily overcome those stringent laws. The example of Dhruva Maharaj is very fitting. Simply by becoming agreeable to the orders of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and by developing love of Godhead, Dhruva got the chance to personally meet the confidential servants of Lord Vishnu face to face. What was possible for Dhruva Maharaj is possible for everyone. Anyone who very seriously engaged in devotional service can obtain, in due course of time, the same perfection of the human form of life. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Purvakaya Chakshurmitana Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So here, the two Vishnu Dutas, Nanda and Sunanda, they addressed Dhruva Maharaj. Dhruva Maharaj perfected his life by always being absorbed in thinking of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna, and his heart filled with was full with Krishna. And Srila Prabhupada mentions that he is called Pushkara Nava, which means the Supreme Personality of Godhead who has a lotus navel. Right. And Samatau means two confidential, very obedient servants. So he was completely in agreement with the plan of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is oneness with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Oneness is in how a person is in agreement with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, not asamata, disagreement. Disagreement is when we are in disagreement with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, we are bound to the material world, material realm, under the stringent laws of material nature, which are very difficult to overcome. We can, after being bound by the stringent laws of material nature, we can overcome that. Only by completely surrendering to the Supreme Personality of Godhead and always thinking about the Supreme Lord. And just like Dhruva Maharaj, Srila Prabhupada mentions that anybody can achieve the same perfection in the human form of life if they are completely dedicated in devotional service to the Supreme Lord. Yeah, that's all. Yeah. Guru Maharaj, you want to add?
Madhupati mentioned confidential servants, sammatta. Sammatta means having the same opinion or being in agreement. And as Madhupati mentioned, materialistic life means asammatta. I have my own opinion. Arjuna at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita had his own opinion, but at the end, Kodashe, just that, Tava, Nashtamoha Smriti Labdha Tvat Prasada Mayachita Those me got Sunday. Then Kodashe Vachanam Tava. Yes, Kodashe Vachanam Tava. I'll do what you say. So that's agreement. Prabhupada has a lecture where he says that we have to become yes men. Of course, yes man in our idiom has a sort of a different connotation, but Prabhupada uses it, that yes, the yes man, whatever you tell me, I'll say yes. That's the position of the pure devotee. Whatever Krishna says, he's agreeable. Tata tata va, whatever you tell me, all right, that will be acceptable. And then that other Padab Krishna Padabhinivishta Chetasam, Abhinivishta Chetasam. Their minds were absorbed in always thinking of Krishna out of love for Krishna. Dhruva Maharaj was absorbed. The materialists, the Mayavadis, want to be merged into the impersonal Brahma. It's very difficult because they have no love and there's nothing to think about. I was just recently hearing Hari Parsha was making the point that even the term Brahman, with which we describe the impersonal absolute, is something of a convenience term. You can't say that the absolute truth is Brahman because Brahman has no name, no form, no qualities, no name, no nothing. So we use this word Brahman sort of as an indirect indicator of the absolute truth, but it can't really be. What would you say? It can't designate the absolute truth because the absolute truth is beyond all designations. So the impersonalists are stuck in that way. Even the term that they're willing to use doesn't quite fit. But the holy names of Krishna are abhinaton, non-different from Krishna. And Krishna is non-different from his qualities, his forms, his activities. So the devotee can be absorbed in thinking of all these. The impersonalists can try to be absorbed, but klesho dikataras tesham avyakta sakta chetasan. If we try to attach our minds to something impersonal, that will be very difficult. But Dhruva attached his mind to Krishna, and not just as a yogic process. In the beginning, he performed some austerities, but at this point, his mind is just spontaneously absorbed in thinking of Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Ross Prabhu, are you on for reading chats?
Chats, yes.
We just have one at the moment.
Okay. Saraswati Mataji writes, recently I was talking with a friend who helps patients with short, long-term amnesia. She was saying how even though they forgot their former self, when they are reminded of what they were like, they state often that it made complete sense that they had this personality. Conditioned souls have amnesia too, but when we hear of our constitutional position, it doesn't always feel correct to some. Why?
Because the amnesia is pretty thick. I'm sure that friend who helps people, there's some people you'll tell them about what their life is, and they'll say, "Oh yeah, okay." Other people just give you a vacant stare and not really know what you're talking about because they're pretty far gone. So especially the material, the gross materialists or the atheists are pretty far gone. So even when they hear something, no, you're not this body, you're spirit soul. No, you're not John Smith, you're an eternal servant of Krishna. They'll give you a vacant stare, or they just, no, I just don't get it. Or that's rubbish. Like the amnesia patients. Hare Krishna.
I had one small thought as Madhupati Prabhu was quoting the verse referenced by Srila Prabhupada, Daivi Hesha Gunamai Mama Maya Duratyaya. Srila Prabhupada is talking about how Krishna is helping us when we're dedicated, helping us cross over. And then I was thinking about the verse that you quoted with Kadambakaran Maharaj's Tirubhav festival, that Dustaram Nishtatirshitam, that it's that this same very difficult ocean or Kali Yuga is so difficult to cross over, but by the spiritual master's mercy, when we come into sammatao with the same mindset as the spiritual master, then we can make that progress. Saraswati Devi thanks you for your reply. And Ross Prabhu, are you available for 12:23? Would you like to carry us through our next verse?
Yes, Guru. Sunanda Nandav Ucha tu Probo Rajan Subhadram te Vacham no Vahita Shrinu Ya Panchavarsas Tapasa Pavandivam Atir Pat. Translation. Nanda and Sunanda, the two confidential associates of Lord Vishnu, said, Dear King, let there be all good fortune unto you. Please attentively hear what we shall say. When you were only 5 years old, you underwent severe austerities, and you thereby greatly satisfied the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Purport. What was possible for Dhruva Maharaj is possible for anyone. Any 5-year-old child can be trained, and within a very short time, his life will become successful by realization of Krishna consciousness. Unfortunately, this training is lacking all over the world. It is necessary for the leaders of the Krishna consciousness movement to start educational institutions in different parts of the world to train children starting at the age of 5 years. Thus, such children will not become hippies or spoiled children of society. Rather, they can all become devotees of the Lord. The face of the world will then change automatically.
Any comments, Ross Prabhu? Well, there's
No,
something.
Well, here Srila Prabhupada is giving a indication or saying that this training is necessary for children. Of course, we know that ISKCON had various failed experiments in training children properly. But Prabhupada indicates, and all the Shastras indicate, that this training is needed from a young age. Child should be trained in understanding Krishna consciousness. So that his life will be successful by realization of Krishna. The alternative education, that is mainstream public education or something along those lines, may be safe and may prepare one for a good career, but it really doesn't provide spiritual understanding. And just to take essentially a mundane education and give it a little bit of a shine with 10 minutes of prayers in the morning, that doesn't really turn it into an institution of spiritual training. And without that kind of training, then the child just falls into social media, multiplayer games, what have you, a materialistic way of life in which there's no spiritual content, spiritual culture, spiritual training. So this is still a a project to be undertaken. Just abandoning, imperfectly or badly botching the project is one way to fail, and abandoning the project is another way to fail. So somehow this need needs to be met. Hare Krishna.
I have something in the chat from Murari Gupta Prabhu. Krishna acknowledges that some people, even after hearing about the soul, cannot understand it.
Yes.
Saraswati Mataji writes in the chat, the Kumara brothers wanted to remain age 5 permanently, and sometimes I see 5-year-old children are naturally drawn to Krishna consciousness, but when they get older, they veer off. Then I wish they stayed 5 at all times too.
That was the Kumar's wish. Let us remain Kumars forever, so that we won't be bewildered by the attractions of the material energy. The father would be eager to get them married, but no, we'll remain brahmacharis. We'll stay Kumars forever.
Praveen Krishna Prabhu writes, there are some guru schools in India still going on for decades.
Yes.
I had one I heard from His Holiness Bhakti Abhay Maharaj, something that I've heard you say as well, Guru Maharaj, and that is that to take birth again in this world, never mind the inconvenience of being in the womb and the birth process, but I just don't want to be 16 again. If I could stay 5, then maybe. No, even then, no. But one other thing, when you mentioned there's 2 ways to fail, abandoning the project is being one, and not doing it because it may be flawed or however that is. It reminded me, I was hearing from Balaram.
The other alternative was botching it.
Botching it, yeah. I was hearing, I'm sorry, yeah, Balaram Prabhu was telling me, he's visiting us here in Hawaii, and he was telling me that he read recently the Sridhar Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Rakshak Sridhar Maharaj, was explaining why he began to accept disciples. And he said there were 2 reasons. He was praying to Nityananda in Ekachakradam, I believe, and he thought, he had a realization that if there are those who are in need of mercy, and this is sort of reminded me of what you had mentioned with His Holiness Kadamba Kanana Maharaj's winning argument with you. If you won't show the mercy, then what is our hope? Where will we get the mercy if you won't give it? And so he thought in that way, he felt inspired in his person Nityananda that there are those in need of mercy. And the other thing that came to his mind was that a doctor, even if he's not the top #1 best physician, if he can offer some help, then it's of great value when there are so many that are diseased. If you can do something, even if you're not the greatest physician. And so I was wondering if you have thoughts on that, Marge, in terms of botching it. Are they acting to some degree, if they're having the kids do some morning program, that okay, it's not the top physician, it's not the best Gurukul, but at least the kids are sprinkling Krishna into their curriculum. At least they're attending the morning program once a week, or however it is. Is there something to be said for that, or is it simply botching it? That shouldn't be.
Well, there's something to be said for it. If in every school in the nation they included 5 minutes of Bhagavad Gita reading, we'd think that was a tremendous thing. But in terms of it's being really adequate, it's not. So if we just become complacent, yes, he's going to such and such school, and some of the teachers are devotees, and they have 5 minutes or 10 minutes of prayers in the morning. So we think, good, it's going to a devotee school, or sometimes it's even called a guru cooler. But, that's kind of light. We have some serious disease and we take an aspirin. Well, okay, the aspirin may do some good, but that's not really adequate. And if we think, well, we took aspirin, so that's enough, then in one sense, the aspirin is working against us because we're thinking that it's sufficient, it's giving us the illusion that we've dealt with the problem. Anyway, that a political example from ISKCON came to mind, but doesn't need to be dragged up. But you take some inadequate measure and you think that well, now we've done something, but you haven't. You've just satisfied yourself that you've done something, but you really haven't. What you've done is inadequate. You're being invaded by an army and you send out, 20 soldiers or something and say, yeah, we sent out a party. That's not going to deal with it. So it's an enormous thing to protect the child from the onslaught of the forces of Kali Yuga, from bad association, from the bad habits that are the norm in materialistic society. So just 5 minutes prayers, or sometimes we hear, yes, we have a program for the children. There's a summer camp for a week in such and such place. Well, okay, good. What can you say bad about that? It's wonderful. But is that really on par with what Maya's offering them every day? They have all the rest of the weeks without Krishna consciousness, and we have 1 week of Krishna consciousness. Well, that's good. But is it really the order of the day? Is it adequate? Is it a replacement for being systematic to get, what should we say, thoroughgoing systematic training? No, it's not. But yes, something is better than nothing.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Yeah, the children's crusade into Maya, it's not going to equip them well enough.
Yeah, but if we're doing something, well, that's good. We're doing something. That means we can do more. Not that we're complacent. Well, we're doing something. Take your something and increase it, expand it so that it becomes more effective. If you can't do everything today, then do something. And then next do something more, then more, and so till the point where you're full. In school, okay, we can't do all 12 grades. We'll do the first grade. Okay, we got the first grade down. We'll do the second. But not that I'm complacent. Yes, we did 15 minutes. We're good.
Thank you, Maharaj. And I suppose in the Sridhar Maharaj quote, first of all, it's his humility. Obviously, he's a qualified physician. And on the other hand, he's not just suggesting that the doctor is just giving an aspirin. Perhaps he's saying that the doctor has some competence, but he's going into practice without the highest level of proficiency. Maybe that's where the quote is.
Yeah, even sometimes you'll hear on an airplane, is anyone on board a doctor? Someone's having an emergency, medical emergency. Is anyone on board a doctor? And then the doctor doesn't consider, well, I'm not a heart specialist. He's a doctor and nobody else is. So he does what he can. Prabhupada gave that example of trying to get across the message to the neighbors, even though you don't know their language. When there's necessity, then you do what you can.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. We are at the hour.
You're muted again.
Oh, sorry, I don't know. I don't know what I said last, but we are at the hour, and I was wondering if perhaps Krishna Kaunteya Prabhu we haven't heard from you in a few classes. Perhaps you would lead us in a few minutes of kirtan.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Nita Gaur Brahmanande, Hare Hare Bol. Maha Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale, Srimati is Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta, Swami Iti Namine, Maha Vishnu Padaya Krishna Vistaya Bhutale, His Divine Grace, His Divine Grace, Jayādvaita Maharaj, Ho Swami Iti Namine, Namaste Saraswati Devi, Gauravani Pacharane, Nirvisesha Srinivadi, Paskacha Deshatane, Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Sri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. Jai Sri Guru Anuranga Jayādvaita Swami ki Jai.
Jai, Jai. Thank you all so much for being here for our Srimad Bhagavatam class. If it's all right with you, Maruti has just a couple of verses from Sanatana Goswami glorifying Srimad Bhagavatam.
Do I just start?
Say them, yeah.
Sarvasashtrabdi Piyusha Sarvavedaika Satphala Sarvasiddhanta Ratnadya Sarvalokaika Drikprada Sarvabhagavatat Prana Srimad Bhagavatat Prabhu Khalidvanta Dataditya Shri Krishna Parivartita.
Those are the first two verses of Sri Bhagavat Mahima Stotra. He knows the rest, but we're still working on making them fluent. But I thought in the purport we were hearing how 5-year-old children can make great advancements. So we're trying to do a little something, and Maruti is encouraging us all in our devotional service. So Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai. His Divine Grace Jayādvaita Maharaj ki Jai.
Jai.
Parvati ki jai. Swami Vivekananda ki jai.
Jai. Hari Bol.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, and we'll continue on Wednesday with text 24.
And Radesh Prabhu, if I may, Maharaj, please allow me. He's just adorable. He's your son, no?
This is my eldest, and we have a little one as well. And we're with your blessings, Vijay Krishna Prabhu, we wish for them to be devotees of Krishna.
Of course, Prabhu. Again, he's just adorable. Thank you very much.
Thank you.